So I've got some of these very nice crystal balls. The PCB is pretty basic, it's just some LEDs. So I've got some new PCBs for this on order, but first thing we need to do is design a new base and 3D print it. So let's get on with that and match it up to my nice new PCBs. So here's the new PCB, and I've exported this and imported it into Fusion 360. So what I need to do is make the base, and the first thing I'll do is I'll create a sketch and just do the circle for the base. So let's do a sketch on this plane, and then we'll project in some of the outlines from the PCB. There we go. And now let's just hide that. So what I'll do is I'll use the circle and I'll do a 3-point circle. The reason I'm doing that is because this isn't quite central. So if I do a circle just starting from the origin, it won't quite work. Whereas if I do a 3-point circle, I can just pick some points fairly arbitrarily on this circle. And there we have our initial circle. So our PCB is going to have to slot in the bottom. So I'll offset this by probably, well, let's just do 0.5 millimeter. And then I do another circle that is concentric with that, which will be the actual base. And I know that the globe is 60 millimeters wide, so we'll make this circle 60 millimeters, and then that will match up to the actual globe. So let's also project through the holes for the screws as well. Why can't I project this? Because I've hidden it. No, actually, it's already projected. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. So let's finish that sketch, and then we'll just turn this back on. So we should be able to extrude down, and I'll fill in this area where the USB connector is for now. Let's turn this off. That's a bit better. Okay. And we'll just extrude that by, let's just do 1 centimeter for now. I'll see how this looks when I have the globe on top. But I do want to make space for a battery underneath the PCB. So that should be enough space for a battery. So that should be okay. So let's create a sphere for the actual globe. So create my sphere gone. There we go. I'll just place it arbitrarily for now. And why hasn't that worked? Oh, there we go. Right, so this sphere needs to be 60 millimeters wide, and we'll just create a new body. Okay, and I think we'll give that an appearance as well. So let's give that a nice appearance. Let's just do frosted glass. That will do. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll make a joint and I'll offset it from the PCB. So let's do a construction. Oh, no, let's do an assemble. So we'll assemble a joint. So we'll pick our first we need to turn these into components. So create component. Just call that sphere, and then create component. Call this the base. Right. So now we can do our joints. So we'll create a joint between sphere 1. Can't work. Okay, and we'll create that between the. So what I'll do is I'll turn off that, and then we'll just put it on the center there, and now we can offset it. So what we want to do is we know our sphere is 30 millimeters. So if we do 30, let's do minus 30, then that would be exactly on the top of the PCB. So let's have a look and see how that actually looks. So of course I've forgotten that the PCB's got some width, so we'll just adjust that joint. So edit joint, and then we'll just change that distance to make some room for the PCB. So let's have a look and see how that looks. So I think that would probably be pretty perfect. Our sphere will be just above the PCB, doesn't seem to interfere with the LEDs, so that's ideal. So now what I'll do is I'll just extend the base up to the top of the sphere. So let's do extrude, and we'll just go up to the sphere. So that's our base. Well, actually, that's not quite right, is it? Because we need to actually come in a bit because we've got screw holes here. So let's extrude this up to the top of the PCB. in hindsight, I should have probably made this initial sketch from the top of the PCB, but that's probably fine. So that's okay. And now what I'll do, so I want to have a sketch on the top of the PCB that has room for these screw holes. So let's do that. So let's just create a sketch. We'll turn off the sphere. Let's just project in these screw holes. And now I can just turn off that. Okay, so that's kind of okay. I'd prefer these to be circles, but it's probably fine. So let's create another circle. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I get it in the center of this one. So let's have a look at what I've got. On sphere, could use a projection of the sphere. Maybe that will give us what I need. Okay, let's turn the sphere off. Yeah, there we go. There's our center. It was there all along. So let's just create a circle. And that should be wide enough to be outside of the LEDs, but give us enough room for the screw holes. Let's just see if we can put a dimension on that to make that happen. So I think I will replace these with actual circles because these it's quite annoying. So we'll do another 3-point circle. Okay. So actually I might turn these into construction lines before I do that because it's kind of annoying to have all of these little dots. So for that construction. So let's just do the 3-point circle trick to give us some nice circles. I'll make these construction as well because I'm going to inset the actual holes so that our screws have something to hook onto. Circle, 3-point circle, 1, 2, 3. Right, that will do. And we'll just make it 0.5 millimeter smaller. And for this one, that will actually not be a construction line. There we go. So I'll do the same for these other ones. So that should be our sketch finished. So now we'll let's turn back on our sphere and we'll extrude up to the ball. So there we go, that's pretty good. Nice. So what we'll do is obviously fill in these holes here because we don't want them to be holes all the way through. Let's turn on the PCB. So I think that should work nicely. Should be room under here for a battery as well. Let's just fill in these holes here because we don't want them to be hollow all the way. So let's just turn off a bunch of stuff so we can click on things. Do a sketch first. Okay, finish sketch. Now we can extrude that, and that, and I'll just make it 2 millimeters wide. Okay, so that's pretty good. So all we need to do now is make room for the antenna and make a hole for the USB connector. So let's do that. So I wonder what the easiest way of doing that will be. Need to create well, let's do the antenna first. So what I'll do is I'll just create a sketch here, and then we'll just project in the shape of the ESP32 module. I'll offset that by, let's just give it 1 millimeter. Okay, so that looks good. Then we can extrude that, and I'll just extrude that. Where should we extrude that to? Let's have a think. Let's do it to the other side of the PCB. So that will be that face there, I think. Okay. Let's make sure we're doing, yep. So that gives us room for the antenna. Should be okay, I think. It's a bit thin here, but that should be okay. I think that'll be fine. Right, let's make a hole for our USB connector. I wonder what the best way of doing this is. What I'll do, let's see, maybe we need an offset plane for this. Yeah, let's do a, actually, yeah, we don't need that at all. I can just create a sketch on the other side of the USB socket. So let's do a sketch here, and we'll turn off our base and the PCB so we can see things. Yeah, so I'll just do, let's just do a rectangle, and then we'll just do some dimensions so that we have the right. Let's do, how much space should we put around the USB socket? Let's try 2 mm, and we'll see how well that works. Okay, let's turn back on the base. Let's turn on that as well. Okay, that looks fairly reasonable. So we'll just extrude that out to here, and let's include the USB socket. Okay, so I think that's pretty reasonable. The only thing that's slightly missing is I do have some indicator LEDs just above here that show the charging status. So I might need to make this a bit larger. So let's just go back and edit my sketch. I don't know why Fusion 360 sometimes just puts things out of the viewport. Pretty annoying. So we've done that as 2. So let's just turn off the base. Oh, I can actually see everything here. Turn off the PCB. Let's just make that 3 mm, and that should be enough so I can see my my indicator LEDs. Turn the base back on. Turn the PCB back on. So look at how that looks. Yes, I think that would be pretty reasonable. What I might do is just chamfer these edges so that we can print them a bit more easily. Let's do that. Okay. I think that should be okay. That should be enough room for a USB socket to get in. We've got room for our battery. We've got the cutout for the antenna. We should have some holes going through for our screws. Yeah, let's just double check. We'll do a section analysis, see what's going on. We'll start from there. So let's move that through, and let's turn around so we can see what's going on. Okay, so there's our screw hole. So that should work. There's the other screw hole, and we've definitely got enough room from the sphere to the LEDs. So I think that should work. So that goes all the way through. And then we've got our USB socket. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Not bad at all. I think we can ship that. So the PCB should arrive soon. I'll print some of these, and then we can do a test fit with the PCB. So pretty exciting. It's going to be a nice project. All right, that's enough of that. Let's wait for the PCBs to arrive.